Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Checks and Balances TV. I'm your host, Matthew J. Rettick, and I'm committed to giving you the truth you need to financially succeed. In the spirit of April Fool's Day, today's program is entitled, Don't Get Fooled Again. Understand what that financial ad really means. But first, let's see how today's news may impact your financial future. One of the most recent and notable examples of a financial company using misleading or inaccurate marketing information to sell a financial product comes from the Charles Schwab Corporation. In January of this year, they were ordered by FINRA to pay $18 million in restitution to investors for improperly marketing its Yield Plus fund from 2006 to 2008. Charles Schwab made inaccurate statements in its advertising and sales literature about the safety of the fund, and as a result grossed $13.75 billion in sales and $17.5 million in fees. In total, the company was ordered to pay close to $119 million to settle federal and state civil charges for misleading consumers. In early March, President Obama, along with the support of 26 other federal agencies, celebrated National Consumer Protection Week. For the 13th year in a row, government agencies and nonprofit organizations came together to support consumer protection initiatives. This is a coordinated campaign created by the Federal Trade Commission, encouraging consumers nationwide to take full advantage of their consumer rights and make better informed decisions. This year's theme, Your Information Destination, highlighted the educational resources offered by federal agencies and partner organizations, which encourages the public to properly manage their money, protect their identity, and offers tips on how to avoid financial frauds and scams. Okay, so what's really going on here? Let's check the facts using our checks and balances process. Charles Schwab Investment Management, a subsidiary of the Charles Schwab Corporation, managed the Yield Plus fund and marketed it as a relatively low-risk alternative to money market funds and other cash accounts. It was advertised as a highly diversified investment vehicle with higher rates of return when compared to other cash-based counterparts. The company did not disclose in their ad campaigns that it was actually higher risk that led to higher potential returns. Between September 1, 2006 and February 29, 2008, the company took in nearly $14 billion in product sales and earned $17.5 million in fees. However, in August of 2006, through the approval of the Schwab Investments Board of Trustees, the structure of this product began to change. Previously, no more than 25% of the fund could be allocated to any one industry. However, the board voted to change the rules when it came to mortgage-backed securities. By November of that year, 34% of the fund was allocated to mortgage-backed securities. And by February 2007, that number jumped to 42.4% and then to 46.5% in May. And by November of 2007, the Yield Plus fund was only invested in 330 securities, down from 400, and over 46% of the assets were mortgage-backed securities. And by February 2008, more than half of the assets of the Yield Plus fund were held in mortgage-backed securities, double the original maximum allocation. During the same period of time, the company continued to market the Yield Plus fund as having higher income potential with minimal risk, and continued to use the same marketing materials even though the fund looked very different from when it was originally introduced. They advertised this high-profile fund in a variety of ways, such as ads, emails, and brochures. Posters were hung in retail centers. The firm's website featured fund-specific pages. They held webcasts, distributed news releases, and even published periodic reviews. In addition, Schwab provided its sales force with talking points and materials to reference when selling the fund, and later even changed the compensation structure, which further encouraged sales reps to promote the Yield Plus fund over CDs to their clients. National Consumer Protection Week, also known as NCPW, is a nationwide campaign that was established in 1998 as a way to highlight and promote consumer education. Each year, event organizers and supporters attempt to inform consumers about their rights and how to avoid excessive risks in the marketplace. Consumer rights are protected by consumer protection laws, which, among other things, ensure the information being shared within the marketplace is truthful, so hopefully consumers can avoid scams and frauds. The goal of the NCPW is to identify and reduce the number of businesses that are generating a profit unfairly at the consumer's expense, and to focus the attention of the consumer on preventative strategies and provide them with tips for making informed financial decisions. Resources for consumer rights can be found on the NCPW website and includes information about privacy protection laws, managing credit cards and debt, avoiding identity theft, and recognizing and reporting fraud and scams. The FTC, along with 26 other federal agencies and partner organizations, such as AARP and the Better Business Bureau, organize these events nationwide to help educate consumers about recognizing deception in the marketplace. NCPW strives to reduce consumer losses and works to educate consumers about the potential risk of being uninformed. Okay, so you may be asking yourself, Matt, what does all of this really mean to me? Well, now that we've checked the facts, let's balance this news using our checks and balances process to determine what action you should take today. Although Schwab's investment management team was aware of the fund's portfolio change, the retail division did not change the way the product was sold. Some employees began to notice that the risk had increased for the Yield Plus fund and began calling it the Yield Minus fund. However, it was business as usual, and they continued to push the fund until March of 2008, when it was ultimately taken off the Charles Schwab Select List. Schwab's registered reps inaccurately told consumers that the Yield Plus fund was simply a money market equivalent, that it did not have exposure to mortgage-backed securities, and that the fund was very low risk with minimal fluctuations in share price. The sad part of this story is that these are licensed and educated financial advisors, trained to know better. Yet they sold this product for the company, earned a commission for themselves, and were not truthful with their investors. Charles Schwab and Company failed to establish and maintain supervisory oversight of its sales reps, resulting in the misrepresentation of the product to its clients. And by misrepresenting the product as a low-risk cash alternative, it greatly appealed to investors 65 years of age and older. According to the firm, most of the sales were unsolicited and were purchased by current clients. The solicited sales totaled nearly $3.5 billion, of which 40% were to customers 65 years of age and older. That kind of risk, especially undisclosed, is not suitable to investors of that age. The most important message the NCPW works to convey is this: it's never too early or too late to become a more informed consumer. Without consumer education, it's easy to fall victim to any number of financial ads or scams, which is why it's so critically important for consumers to educate themselves. Consumers need to really read between the lines to get to the bottom of what a financial ad really means. As an example, if you were to read a marketing ad that said, the annual average rate of return for this fund has been 25%, well, that sounds like a great investment opportunity, doesn't it? However, do you know what that headline really means? To get the annual average return, you must add the percentage of the returns together over the life of the investment, and then divide it by the same number of years. So, for example, let's say that you invested $10,000 of your hard-earned money into that fund. And in the first year, it increased by 100%. Boy, that's good news, isn't it? So your account is now worth $20,000. But then the next year, you lose 50% of your account value. So after 2 years, you're back where you started with $10,000. However, technically, your investment is still up 50%. Well, how can that be? Well, the fuzzy math works like this. A 100% gain minus a 50% loss equals 50%. And 50% divided by 2 years equals an average rate of return of 25% per year. You've actually made zero return, yet the marketing material some companies produce can legally say that this fund earned an annual average return of 25%. It's tactics like these that the FTC continues to monitor and address. While they're working hard to find and eliminate as many scams and frauds as possible, they rely on the help of consumers to report unscrupulous activities such as this. If you have a consumer complaint, you can report it at www.ftc.gov/complaints. As an important note, when looking for the true return on any fund or stock, always look for the words compounded or annualized, not the annual average return. Okay, so what's the bottom line here? One of the most effective ways to get the most for your money is to be an informed consumer. When you know and understand your rights in the marketplace, such as how to uncover the facts behind a fancy marketing ad, and how to recognize potential market risk to your investments, such as an inaccurate headline or lack of disclosure, as in the case of Charles Schwab, you can begin to recognize misinformation, deception, and even scams. And you really can't trust anyone today, unfortunately, and certainly not an ad, web page, brochure, decades-old financial institution, or even a well-educated and well-dressed financial expert. It's your responsibility to check the facts and then balance the information before you decide if any investment is right for you. And the old, often quoted Latin phrase, caveat emptor, can be traced back to the 1500s, yet the principle still holds true today. Let the buyer beware. Those are certainly good words to live by in today's tough economy. In this week's CBTV poll, we asked Americans an important question. Did you take part in the National Consumer Protection Week? The options were A, yes I did, B was no I didn't, C was no but I will next year, and D was I wasn't even aware of it. Well, 38% of you said that you did not take part in the National Consumer Protection Week this year, but you plan on participating next year. My advice to you is don't wait. Even though the official date of the event has passed, the benefits that it provides and the resources it gives you can help consumers protect themselves from fraudulent financial scams, schemes, and unnecessary fees and expenses all year long. Visit the website at www.ncpw.gov to see how you can protect yourself every week of the year. In our On the Street segment, we travel the country to ask Americans what they think about an important financial topic or issue. For this week's segment, we asked people if they felt that most investment products were too complicated for many Americans to understand. Let's take a look at what America had to say. Tell me, do you think that most investment products today are somewhat complicated for the average person to really understand?
Extremely. I think you have to have a master's in finance to even get a grip on what's going on in today's economy. Have any source of an idea of what you got to do to be able to retire. It's ridiculous. So the average American is at an extreme deficit to try to personally figure out how to manage their own finances.
And why do you think that investment products have to be so complicated in the first place?
Well, if I were to give my honest opinion, I feel it's loopholes. You know, they're trying to catch people and falsely make claims that it's a get-rich-quick tactic, or to cover themselves if it's an investment situation, or they play in the futures or the shorts market. I mean, they're covering themselves. So, I mean, who's really getting rich? Is it the person making the investment, or the firms, or the banks?
So would you feel that most financial advisors, or most advisors at all, do they fully explain the pros and cons of every product they're selling?
Well, you know, it's a generality. I mean, you're saying the most. So I would say in general, no, they don't. I think that you are lucky if you come upon somebody who has your best interests at heart. Even getting insurance, you're lucky if you find somebody with your best interests in heart. You have to do your homework, and even then you are going to make mistakes. So to answer your question, no.
This woman had an excellent point about investment products, didn't she? Some financial products and advertisements have, as she said, loopholes, falsely made claims, and get-rich-quick tactics that serve to lure people in and take their hard-earned money. Stay tuned for my Tip, Tool, or Technique segment next, where I'll teach you how to read between the lines of these financial ads so they don't fool you. And now for Matt's weekly Tip, Tool, or Technique. Today's Tip, Tool, or Technique is on reading between the lines of financial advertisements or statements. In the spirit of April Fool's Day, here are the 5 persuasive tactics listed by the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, also known as FINRA, to look out for, that are most commonly used also in fraudulent financial ads to fool you out of your hard-earned money. Number one is the phantom riches tactic. This tactic is a favorite of financial schemers and scammers. It dangles the prospect of wealth by enticing you with a very large, tempting return if you invest with them or send in your check. For example, send us $10,000 today and we can guarantee you a 50% return on your investment within 30 days. Number two is the source credibility tactic. This tactic tries to build credibility by claiming to be associated with a reputable firm or touting special credentials or experience. For example, as one of the top financial advisors with the XYZ firm on Wall Street, I can assure you that your investments are guaranteed to be safe with us. Number three is the social consensus tactic. This tactic encourages you to jump on the bandwagon by bragging about all the people who have already signed up, usually in the form of falsified testimonials by supposedly satisfied consumers. For example, I was skeptical at first, but when my two best friends and our church's choir director put their money in, I jumped in too. Number four is the reciprocity tactic. This tactic offers to do a small favor for you in return for a much larger favor. For example, if you make a decision now to invest your money, I'll give you 50% of my commission on this. And number five is the scarcity tactic. This tactic creates a false sense of urgency by using a limited time to invest now before it's too late. For example, due to the popularity of this program, we only have 10 spots left for investors. Send in your check now before all the available spots are gone. Well, once you realize the common tactics used on false financial advertisements, the only fools will be the con artists and scammers who tried to trick you out of your hard-earned money but failed. Keeping these sneaky tactics in mind will help make sure the joke is always on them. Now is the time to realize that neither the federal government nor consumer protection agencies are solely responsible for making sure that you do not fall victim to a fraud or exaggerated marketing ad. Only you are responsible for making sure that you do not fall into the trap of falsified, too good to be true financial ads or claims. Remember the old adage, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Tricksters and pranksters are abundant on April Fool's Day, but misstated and fraudulent financial ads and claims exist every day of the year. Make sure you read between the lines so you don't get fooled by them. Mark your calendars now for the newest installment of our popular series, The Lighter Side of Finance. This special episode is available now and is entitled Ponzi Schemerwitz. You will learn how to protect yourself and your nest egg from those too good to be true scammers and con artists. And be sure to friend our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel to gain exclusive access to our library of viral videos and the Truth About series. For more information on how to become a checks and balances savvy consumer and to download any of our free reports, visit the download section of our website. Also, be sure to get your copy of The Truth About Average Stock Market Returns, a free report that teaches you the difference between average stock market returns and compounded rates of return. And while you're on the site, remember, your voice counts. Be sure to take this week's poll and visit our Tell Us What You Think section to share your opinion. Make your voice heard. And finally, remember that only you can control your financial future. You can succeed. You just need confidence and determination. I'm Matthew J. Rettick from Checks and Balances TV. Be sure to join us next week when we'll discuss tax preparation versus tax planning. Don't just pay your taxes, reduce them. Until then, spend less, save more, believe in yourself, and make it happen.